Hello everyone and welcome back. So one last thing I forgot to do the last time was committing those changes to the T53, which is tutorial number 53, and pushing that to master or main branch. Let's do it now. One thing you have to do always is add everything. If you want to add everything, if you want to just add certain files, you can specify them here, but the dot means everything, and then git commit, and I'm committing those changes. And I can specify here what was the nature of the change. So what I did here was added to my finances, okay, and then we say push, and it generates this bit here that we need to copy and paste. Okay, support for authentication was removed. Okay, please use personal token. Okay, that's a good thing. So I forgot to change this connection here. So what we need to do is we need to go to github.com, and in settings here, go to settings, and in here somewhere there's developer settings, and you go to personal access token. You generate one here, and you can call it oh well, I don't want to expired. Let's give it 90 days. And I wanted to have all the privileges here because it's going to be for me. If you want to give a token to somebody else, you might want to change that a bit. And I'm going to just call it Pycharm because I'm going to use it for my Pycharm. Okay, and I'm going to copy this. You can't see it, but I have this. Okay, so if I want to use this here, actually, it seems I just Googled it. So git push again, and it's asking me for my account. So sugar, loaf, and a cup of Joe. And I'm just pasting this. Okay, everything up to date. It seems it is connected now. So instead of using my actual password to my account, I just pasted this, this authentication key that I took from here, right? So I went to settings, developer settings, and personal token, and that's one of them here. It's not visible anymore, the token itself, because I'm not supposed to see it anymore. You can regenerate that token if you want. If you want to see it again, it's going to be a different one, and you need to paste it again to this password here. Okay, and one more thing about GitHub. I'm going to use it the way that you can go back in time. So let's say I just started now, so I'm sorry you're not gonna have all the code up until 53rd tutorial. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep those branches here, so you can go back and click, okay, show me what's going on in branch 53. So you can change it here actually. Give me 53, and you can see what was going on in my code at that time. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to main because I want to keep all the changes there, and I'm going to do the pull request. And it's a thing that you're going to do at work when you work off branches. So you were working on this T53 branch, and you need to merge it with main. So you just make it a pull request. If you want someone to review it, if you're working with someone, you can add them here. But it seems like everything is fine. You can make the merge, and voila. If I go to my code, sorry, if I go to Mark's portfolio and I go to main, I'll see all the changes here in my finances, added dashboard to my finances, and that's the one from 16 minutes ago. So again, if you want to go and see what was going on for this tutorial, you go and change the branch here, okay? And it's going to be just 54, 5, and so on. Every tutorial is going to be finished with a branch. Okay, now that we have our T53 branch done, let's git checkout to master. Oh, sorry, main. So what I want to do is I want to create a new branch for tutorial 54. So git checkout base. So B is for take main as a base and create a new 54. If I didn't put that B here, it would say, sorry, there is no T54. So I'm gonna say B, and that's the only time you use this B is when you don't have this in here, okay? Because we want to take this main as a base and create a new branch. Boom, and we have the T54 branch ready to go, and we can start our new tutorial. Okay, so I made the last changes that I wanted to finish with for the Django section, just so we have something somehow solid, somehow working. There's a couple of changes that I made, so I'm going to try to go through them very fast. So anyway, this is how it looks now. This is what I decided to go with at the end. So we have our update records and view records here, and also we have our dashboards, which I renamed to current period and year overview. So in here, we're just looking at whatever happened between the last check. So we checked that at, okay, on 15th of April. That was the last check, and it's calculated that I'm supposed to have that much money on my account right now, on the current account. In here we have estimated income and estimated outcome throughout that time. And in here we have income by type and outcome by type. That was done before. There's, as you can see here, the savings here and savings here. So that wasn't there, I had to add it. And the way I handle it is, if we have an outcome to savings, it means we take it from the current account and it goes to savings. And if we have an income from savings, that means we took it, we withdraw that money from savings to current account. And you'll see an example of that. And in here we have a year overview. So that's also something that we were working on. This graph is something that I came up with that is supposed to kind of imitate real life. So there's certain income at the end of every month, and then there is some money going to the savings, and we do some checks. Here's some vacation time. So you can see how this current account is going up and down, and it really doesn't go up, which is something you don't want to see, because you want to keep your current account just around, you know, bouncing from nearly zero to whatever you make a month. In here we have income and outcome per year. So it doesn't only calculate the money that you spent or you earned up until today. It actually goes all the way to give you a feel, even if it's the beginning of the year and you want to see, okay, what kind of money am I going to spend, and what kind of money will help me paying for that. So you'll see that income, and there's the split all across the year. So some of it is estimated, and some of it would be based on what is the actual spending. And in here is the savings balance. So here we start with 1,000, and it just goes by a certain amount every month. There is a bit of a change here, because we go to travel for vacationing. So I put that income from savings. So it moved money from the savings to the current account. And here is a bit of a bonus. So there's a bit more money going into savings. So it kind of works. If you see, we have different balances, checks. We have the savings here and 3 current checks. We have those incomes here. So here there is the bonus that we get every year, and here's some savings. So we withdraw money from savings for vacation. And here's some salary from one company that comes in every month on 25th. And here is another salary from another company that comes every 1st of, and it comes every month. So that's how it's done for the income. And then we have some outcome here. So we have some savings. That's just one-off savings outcome. Here is some travel. And here is monthly and probably some daily as well. If I look at the groceries every day, $20 or euro, whatever. For fun every week, travel, tenner for tickets and stuff. Maybe probably not enough, but it's not supposed to be true. It's supposed to be just like some sort of a simulation. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I think it does a pretty good job. I would actually put my own information here, and that will give me some pretty cool control over my finances. I actually do that in spreadsheets. So what I'm going to do at the end, I'm going to have my own account and create my own kind of spendings and incomes here, so I can control it not from spreadsheet, but I can use my own tool. And probably I'll do it after deployment. Anyway, so you probably want to see how did I get to this. So let's start with models, because one thing that I did here, and if I go to outcomes, you see that I added this repetition end. So if something is repetitive, and it's the same for income, if something is repetitive, we also want to say, okay, it's repetitive for a year, let's say, and it happens every week or so, but I want to give it a deadline. It stops at some point, and it kind of makes sense because you don't want to, sometimes something is repetitive and it stops and your situation changes. So you want to be able to stop a repetitive income or outcome. Okay, so that's what I did here. Here is this repetition end. Models date field and null is true, because if we don't want to stop it, if we say, okay, keep it going until I know when it stops, and then I put that, I can edit that spending or income. And so null is true, and it's the same for, sorry, that was outcome, so that's income, the same story here. And obviously you need to do your Python manage.py make migrations here. And then Python merge, Python manage.py migrate, okay? And then you have those changes done in the backend. Another change that I've done in models is I added this type savings, because when you have that income, as I said before, if you withdraw money from your savings, you want to make that an income to your current account. So these names, income and outcome, they are more from current account, current balance perspective. When we look at savings, it's the opposite. It's the other way around, where income is actually outcome and outcome is actually income, because because it goes one way or another. Okay, so I added that. It doesn't require migration. It's something more backend Python based, so it doesn't need to be in the database. So basically when we do the make migrations and migrate, we actually change SQL. We actually change the database itself. This is more about how the constraints that we create for the backend itself, for Python. Python knows that, okay, we're going to have those types and we're going to have those intervals, and we can't do anything else. Okay, and the same for outcome here, savings. So we have another category for, or type for, income and outcome. And that's it for the models. So I can close that here. In forms, obviously it needs to be shown that we have this repetition end there. So we add that line here, and we use this repetition end from clean data. And if you scroll down here, there is some validation for repetition end. So basically we check some stuff for repetition. So if it is there, if we have the date of, wait a second, it should be form date. So see, I made a mistake there, because date is actually something that we use for, it's from another library. So it should be form date and repetition end. We need to make sure that it's not before the date. So it's basically the start and that's the end of repetition income or outcome. And then here we also add, so I changed that slightly to say probably different message. Yes, I think I changed this from repetition to repetition interval. The same here. So we have repetition time and we have repetition end as well. So it can be filled if the repetition is not selected. So if repetition is false, we didn't check it here. We want to say, hey, don't put repetition end, because it's going to confuse you. It's going to confuse the backend. Leave it blank. Okay, and it's the same here. So I think I mentioned that we have, all right, so that's the income outcome. So that's the parent class. And then for this specific income form, we need to specify the fields. So we need to add this repetition end there. And it has to be where we want to see it in the form. So I wanted to see it just before the comment, because we don't want to add that end here because we don't know if it's repetitive. Only when we check this repetitive, we start filling out those. Okay, and in here we have this repetition end that it's going to be forms, and we need to specify that it's going to be false, required false, so we don't need to pass that. And it's the same for outcome form. We have those fields, we added the repetition end, and we added this repetition end and required false. Okay, so that's the change for the forms. So okay, probably helpers will be the next one, just to see what kind of changes I made in helpers. Again, I made a mistake here the last time, so I didn't handle those month 0 very well. So basically what needs to happen is we need to, because if we go, let's say monthly, and we go from month 11 to 12, what we get is we're gonna get 1 here and 0 here, although we actually went from November to December, so we wanted December to happen. So actually what needs to happen here, we need to say, okay, that's gonna be month 12, so it's gonna be December actually, and we don't add that year yet. So it needs to be 1 and 1 for us to say, okay, so that's gonna be add 1 year and we are at January. But when it's 0, we are actually still in the previous year. So it's going to be December and we don't add that year just yet. In here, so what did I change here? Oh yes, so I did change this to not to be just last balance. I changed that to be the date only because we don't use any other information from the balance rather than date. So sometimes there's going to be a case where we don't have the balance to pass here, but we have the date where we want to start. So it's useful to use it as a date only. Here we have this end, so I had to add this line because before we assumed the end is today, so we just like went all the way to today. But we actually, for two reasons, we wanna be able to do the end. One is the repetition end, and two, if we look at the full year, we want to start with the beginning of the year, and we want to finish with the end of the year, not today only. So I added this end here. This doesn't change, and then I changed those balance to balance. So before it was balance.date. Now we're just using balance date because it's a date automatically. We pass that as a date here. We pass that as date here. And in here, something changed. Yes, so before it was today. Now we change it to end because sometimes it's not just today. And the rest is the same. So that's the change that need to happen in helpers. Okay, and now the big changes in views.py. That's going to be the most intense one. Not too much, but I shuffled things around. I changed names just to make it more consistent. So let's start here. Current period. Before it was called current finances. Now I went from, so if you look here, we have current period and year overview. I just wanted those names to be the same as in front end. What it does is pretty much the same. The only change here is the name of HTML, which obviously I want it to be consistent with the name, but that doesn't change that much, just the name of the view in here. And what changes really is the HTML of that. There's going to be a bit of change in HTML and JavaScript because I had to split it between these two views. And that's another one. So I moved it. We had that another view at the very end here. You can delete the stuff from here. So what was here? Can I click this? No. So there was this, I think, finance history there. So you can delete it because this one is basically just copy paste. So this view can be copied and pasted here. You just add a little bit here. So this is the same, but you also check if we have savings balance, and only when we don't have either of them. So if last balance is none and last savings balance is none, then say, sorry, we don't have balance. You need to record something, and then we change the make calls to false, and we are going for year overview HTML, and the rest is very similar to this view here. Okay, get some retire. So again, because we I thought it's gonna be view specific, those calls, these are the Ajax calls. It was like current finances get summary tiles. Now I know it can be used anywhere, so it doesn't make sense to be so specific. So I just removed the prefix here. So there was this current finances get summary tiles. The rest is the same because it's, sorry, let me see here. Oh yes, so the only change that you have to remember is because I changed in this calculate repetitive in helpers. Calculate repetitive, I changed this from last balance to last balance date. We need to make sure that we change this last balance to last balance dot date. And the same here, so you can see I have this edit highlight here. So that's the only change that I've done for this line. Let me see if it's okay. You can see it now. Yeah, it makes sense more. But the rest is the same. Okay, here again, change the name from current finances to get year chart. So I just removed the prefix. I added this flag in here, so we're gonna check if we're looking at balance, current balance or savings balance. We don't want to have two different views handling different balances because the behavior is very similar. So it would be repetitive to have two different, to get the year chart for current and separately for savings. So in here, we just check if it's current or savings. If not, then we just give this message back. So it's clear why it doesn't work. And then this is very similar. We get those beginning of the year, end of the year, balance. So again, the balance that we work on is going to be dependent on if it's current or savings. So in here, I put 1 if balance type is current, otherwise make it 2 because it stands for savings. If you go to models, you'll see that the balance 2 is savings. Okay, and the same here. So if then, else. So again, we make it dynamic. Here, order by date, okay. This is new line, so that doesn't change it that much. And then, okay, so for balance in balances, again, we put that line here. That's the only change around this block of code. This is getting a little bit more complex now, because as I said, for current balance, income is income and outcome is outcome. But else, we actually operate on, okay, when you go through incomes, that is only of type 5, because the only, if it's not current balance, if we're looking at savings balance, we don't care about any other incomes or outcomes except for type 5, which is savings and savings, right? For incomes, it's type 5, for outcomes, it's type 10, and it's both savings. And that's the only type of incomes and outcomes that we care about, because the rest is happening only in current account. Okay. So, and then income becomes outcome, right? Because when I move money, when I start having more money in my current account, and it's about savings, it means I moved something from savings to current, okay? So anyway, let's have a look here. So if the balance type is current, we do exactly the same thing, I believe. Yes, so that color, I think, is just changing the indentation. So all this is exactly the same. The only difference here is you need to change this balance to balance.date and balance to .date here as well. So you can see this is blue and this is blue, which means there was a change in actual code. So yes, and I also have this highlighted with the Control F. So I can see, okay, you need to change balance to balance.date, but that's the only change for balance current, because this view was built for balance current. So else, that's a new piece of code. It does exactly the same as this, except we look only for the type 5 for income, which is savings, and we add it to outcome. So incomes goes to outcomes, outcome, 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 and outcomes of type 10 go only to income, income, income here. So as I said before, it makes sense that way, because if we add something to the income, to the current balance, then we took something from the savings balance. Okay, and the same here. So income, income, and we put that income, and we pass this outcome per year in here. So income, outcome, outcome, income. Okay, but it's very similar. Obviously, that needs to be balance.date. Okay, and the rest, and that's the beauty of it. Once I made this kind of fishy operation here, saying, okay, sometimes outcome becomes income because it's savings, but then once I calculate those beautiful income per day, outcome per day, this whole thing is exactly the same. From here all the way to the end of this view, as you can see, nothing was changed. There's nothing highlighted. So that means I didn't need to touch this because it was working already. And it's working on those income and outcome per day dictionaries. Okay, so that was, let's go back up. That was the get year chart, right? So that's done. Now let's have a look at get income or outcome by type. So again, I just added, so I changed that name. I added this line here. So we also look at the summary type. So we get what, so it's income or outcome, but we also check if it's for the current period, or is it for is it for this view, or is it for this view? So am I looking at the full year, including, the estimated stuff in the future, or is it for only between last check and today? So we have that here. That doesn't change, so you shouldn't be changing anything here. And then we add a bit of code here. So we are checking if the summary type is current period. So that's the old code that was done for only for current period in the previous video. Then we just do this. So like the last time, we were just looking at some at the balance, the current balance, obviously. And we want to just get that because we want to know where to start counting, what's the latest date minus order by date minus date. And once you find it, put the start date, so that's a new thing, as the last balance date, and end date will be today because we want to count between that balance and today. Otherwise, and I'm being very explicit here, because if I said, okay, current balance, and then I can just put else. But I'm being very explicit here because I also want to catch that else saying, hey, it can be only this or this. Okay, if it's for the year, all I'm doing is I create those start date and end date, which are the first day of the year and the last day of the year. Okay, and this doesn't change. In here, we are just changing this to be the start date and the end date, because before it was very rigid. It was just like balance that date and today, but now we're flexible that way. And in here, obviously, we change also. That's the thing I was talking about. I changed this from being a balance object from which we were extracting the date to just the date. So I can pass something that comes from the balance, but I can also make that date and pass it here, and it's still working. So that's why I made that change in helpers, and that goes here. So these are the changes in views. In URLs, I also made some changes. So I just grouped it differently. So and renamed everything. So you can see here's that current period, year overview, and everything is named after it. Get summary tiles, get summary tiles, get summary tiles, blah, blah, blah. And these will be changed in JavaScript as well, because before we were going for current finances / get summary tiles. Now it's gone. Okay, so let's go to templates. There was a couple of changes in templates. I'll start maybe with base HTML. So let me see here. I don't like this highlighting here. Okay, I'm gonna put my cursor somewhere up above because I want to see the Git highlights. Okay, so I'll scroll all the way down just to make sure I didn't add anything here. Just a little line break there. But yeah, the only change that happened is here. So I changed those names, so current period and year overview, and I named them as per the view name. And obviously so this block needs to be changed basically, and you know why and you know how. So I'm not going to go one by one, but just have a look here and just rename things. So that's base HTML. All right, so I also changed those lists here, which it's a bit of a big change actually, but I think it's a good change. You probably noticed like, hey, I don't have that when I was showing you the result of today's changes. We didn't have this table here, which is very handy because if you have a lot of, let's say, outcomes, I have a couple of pages of outcomes, and I can make it 100, so I don't have pages, but I have a lot of outcomes, and I'm like, okay, what kind of savings do I have? Savings, and boom, you have it. You have this filter here, so it's easy to manage and find things. So basically, I'm using data tables that we used before, so it shouldn't be new to you guys, and it was pretty easy to do. Let me again just select this. So I loaded static because we need to also load. Let me see here, this guy here and this guy here. So those two data tables static files, and then so pretty much everything is changed in here. I just added list instead of S here. This is probably just like spacing, and this is completely different. Instead of having this simple list, I replaced it with this table. So as you can see here, I'm putting this if statement that says, okay, if there's something in there, put that table, otherwise make it not just nothing to show and end if, or whatever you want to put here. So basically this won't show from here to here, and you're gonna get some message here. If you want to make it nicer, go ahead. But if there's something in the object list, create this table, there's going to be a head, and depends on if you're looking at just income and outcome, it's going to show you something else. But if if it's not balanced, there's going to be an end, right? So if it's outcome, we have date, start, end, type, value, repetition, and comment. If it's balanced, we don't have repetition and we don't have end. So we need to put that here. If last list what is not balanced, then let's have this column called end. And it's the same for if list what is not balanced, we have this repetition column here. So, but the rest is like date, type, value, comment is the same. And we have this another column here for this. So if you want to open it, it doesn't need a header, so it's empty here. Okay, so that's the head. And in the body, we have this for loop. We go through each object for object list. So I think that was there before. And we have this row for each object where we start putting those that data here. And I added this date to be formatted by year, month, day, sorry. So it's easier to sort. So you can click on the header and it sorts by the header, and that's the best way. That's the easiest way for data tables to handle dates: year, month, day. Okay, and then we have this. If it's not balanced, then we put the end as well. We have the type, we have the value. Again, if it's not balanced, put that cell in there. And if it is repetitive, income or outcome, put that information there as well. So let me look for some repetitive here. Repetition every 1 year. In here, it's not repetitive, so there is nothing in there. Okay, and then some comment. If we have any comments, just put it in there. And this is the same. So we have this link depending on if it's income, outcome, or balance. It takes us to different view. And that's for this button here. And this is the search icon. We close the TD, so that's the cell, row, and end of the loop, end of the body, end of the table. So that's the change in here. And obviously, once we finish this block, content block, we also need to add some JavaScript, because now we have this nice dynamic list data table. So what we have to do is we have to add the static for data tables, and you can copy it from our air pollution. Sorry, not here. So air pollution table, and it's all in here, right? That's what I did. I just copied this whole block and changed it to whatever I need there. It's slightly different because we didn't get anything for this table. We build this table using Django and Jinja. And so all we need to do is we need to just start data table like this. Okay, so we have our imports, and then we need to have this special script. And let me just go up here. The ID of this table is list table, so we use that here. So we grab this using jQuery list table, and we just do .data table. And this could be we could just close it like this and it works. But in here, I'm specifying some information. I want to add this object here, which says, okay, the order is with the first column. So always order by the first column, and it needs to be descending. So I want to have the newest item at the top. Okay, and then we specify the columns, and you can use Jinja here, which is pretty cool. So if you have, if it's not balanced, then add this, and if it's not balanced, add also this. But if not, then don't put that JavaScript here. Okay, so it's pretty cool. It works in JavaScript as well. So we have this date, we have type, and we specify, yes, it's orderable. Yes, I want to order by. I don't want to order by this, obviously. So this one is false, and that's the details. And it doesn't say details here, but the data tables knows that this is the details, although it doesn't even show in front end. Okay, so that's how I start the data table, and this ends here, and we close the script, and we end block, JS block. Okay, and that should work. And then in the detail, I had to add a little bit there. I didn't make it very pretty. I just added this repetition end here. So that's the only thing that I added there. So that's it. So the last bit that we need to change is those two views and those JavaScripts there. So let's go to current period, which is the first one here. So let me just open it. As you can see, we had that here and we had that somewhere. And in between, we had also this year view, which I moved here. So if I scroll here, all I changed was this name here. I deleted some stuff here. So we only have this in here. So let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4th tile. And then just stop here. This is for this guy here. So again, no changes to it. No changes. As you can see on the left side, nothing is highlighted for Git changes. So I didn't change anything. This little arrow here says, oh yeah, there was something here before, but now it's gone. So that's probably was here, that year chart, but it's gone and that's it. Let me just scroll here. The only change here is I renamed this charts to current period charts, and also because it's only for this view. And I also have those common charts to make it drier. So because we also use this chart in here, and we use it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So instead of copy and paste 4 times, we can use that as a function. So common charts. What's in common charts? I'm going to show you at the end. So we can stick to HTML for now. But just change that and it will be changed to in JavaScript too. Okay, and in year overview, that's the new file completely. So you start from scratch. It's very similar to this. So you can copy and paste this, right? You just change the name of it. And then, so we have this if make calls, so that's the same. Just that inside here is a little bit different. So I'm not going to go through all of it. You have the GitHub repo where you can just copy and paste really. I don't think it's a big crime to copy HTML. HTML is the most tedious and not really brilliant stuff. Once you read it, that's all you need to know. You don't need to rewrite HTML unless you want it. That's a good practice. You cement some information here, but you can just copy and paste it. Basically, what I do here is I create. So I put that name here, and then this bit is for this chart. And really, as you can remember from the last time, most of it is this useless bit here because I don't want to lose it. At the same time, you know, it's kind of useless for now. But that's the main thing. We just need to specify this ID here, year chart canvas, because we need that canvas to put that chart in here. Then we have those two. So that's one row of 2. So you see that indentation here. This is the chart number 1. And again, this is useless pretty much. And this is the main part where you have this canvas and you just have income by type. So that's going to be income by type. And the name needs to be, you know, more specific. So income by type over year. And I have it here. And the same for that guy, outcome by type over year. And the name is, the ID of this canvas is outcome by type. And the last guy is savings. So it's exactly the same as this. So I just copy and paste this part from up above. And here is savings balance over year. And the only change really is the savings year. So that's the ID that needs to be unique. Here is the else. So if we don't have, we are not supposed to make the calls. We just say no data and if and block. So that was the content block. And then we have the JS block where, again, if make calls. And where is this make calls coming from? You remember? Here. Year overview. I'm checking the last balance and last saving balance. If both of them are none, then don't make any calls because there's no data to grab anyway. And just put that as a warning. Say, hey, there is nothing to show, and just render saying make calls false. But if there is either of them there, then don't make it false, keep it true. And then we, let's go here and we do import this and try to call those 2 files here. So first we import the charts from the CDN, but here is our code from static. So instead of just having one chart JS, now we have 3 different files, and this one is common for both of the views. This is for current period and this is for year overview. Okay, so let's have a look there. So HTML, we went through it, and this is all you have to change. And for common charts, so let's start with common charts. What's in there? You will see some of the stuff that you will recognize some stuff here. So basically what I did was I just grabbed what we had for the line chart. So whatever, this one, for example, we had that before. So I just extracted from let canvas basically all the way to new chart canvas config. I copied that part and I made it a function where all you have to pass is the result from the get call from Ajax and canvas ID. Okay, so but the rest is pretty much the same. I left the coloring, everything is very, very identical. So if you look here, it's exactly the same as here. We have balance checks that are in green. We have today, which is in yellow, and we have this blue line showing the balance. So it's just copy paste and put it in a function called line chart, and it takes those 2 arguments and create our chart. Similar to donut chart, it's slightly different because we have a different label and different background color, so it needs to be specified. So that's the same result, canvas ID, but then we need to pass that label here and the background color here because it's slightly different for different. See here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. To be honest, I could once you add more colors, it goes it goes with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even if you pass 12 colors. So I could just leave as many colors as I can, and then it uses it. You can see that I passed less colors here, and what it does as charts, it just starts over from the beginning. So you see that color goes here, that color goes here. So really I could skip this, but anyway, so maybe, you know what, let's do that. I'll remove this and I'll go to current period charts, and I'll take this longer list of colors, right? Because what I was doing up until now was I was making this list of colors and I was passing that as a argument to donut chart. But I can just copy this, put it in here. Okay, Option Command L to beautify. Take that out. I don't know if we need that label because it's never used, but I'm gonna just leave it here. And in the next step, I'm gonna fix it in current period and year overview charts. So yeah, we just got rid of one piece of repetition that doesn't need to be there. Okay, and the rest is the same. The rest is the stuff that we built the last time. Here we built this new chart canvas, the same stuff as with the line chart. I put that in a function where we pass those 3 arguments in this case, and this is the function. We start with the canvas, we grab that canvas depending on what we pass here, and we generate this chart. Okay, so let's have a look at the current period charts JS. So in here, this one is for tiles, so it's slightly more verbose. We did that before, so I'm not going to look at it, but look at this. We start current period. So that's the first chart. And by the way, we don't need that because we just got rid of this argument from the donut chart function from the common charts JS. So now we only, all we have to pass is that result from this call. We pass the name, the ID from HTML of the canvas, and we just put a label here, which I don't see anywhere here. Like, oh yeah, because we don't show label. So we might as well even go back here and let's see what happens if I just get rid of this label here. And so let's go common charts, label's gone, label for argument is gone, current periods, we don't need that income here. Okay, and again, we don't need for the second chart, we don't need the colors, we don't need the outcome label. Let's just leave the ID and result. Okay, save that, go here, Shift Command R for refreshing the JS as well, because sometimes JS is cached, so you need to hard refresh, and I can see it working. So we just cut 2 arguments from this function here, which is pretty cool, and it's the less repetition, useless repetition, the better. Okay, but obviously this is not going to work. If I go here, it should break. It doesn't break. Why aren't you breaking? Console. Huh, that is strange. It's not supposed to work because it's still passing 2 additional arguments, and it seems like it doesn't mind. I didn't know that about JavaScript, but for now, if you go to year overview, we are still, if you look at donut chart, we still pass this and we pass this, and for some reason it doesn't mind. It's interesting because it's still going from here, and it looks at this chart and this function here, and it says, okay, you're supposed to pass these 2, but it seems to be flexible enough to get more arguments and don't care about them. Interesting. But anyway, we can, so from the top, here's the line chart. All we have to do is we have to say, hey, line chart. So we do the get from jQuery, get, and again, instead of my current finances slash my finances slash current finances slash get year chart, we don't specify current finances here. And in here, we just pass this result into this function that is in common charts. It's called line chart. And we just specify the ID of canvas, and that's it. In here, I need to fix this. So we don't need the colors anymore because it knows what colors to go through. And if it's not enough colors that I passed, it's going to just keep repeating those colors, which is fine. And the same for this donut. Again, no current finances, no current finances. Every call doesn't have this current finances there. And we get rid of that. And yeah, and then the last one here is another line chart. Exactly the same story. We just go to year chart, balance type, savings. So just keep in mind, you have the repo. So just if I skip something, just these can be very sensitive. That's exactly what the call is, and that's exactly what the call is. So just make sure we have the same calls here and on your side. And so yeah, and then we have the result and the savings here, which is the ID of the canvas in HTML. And we build those here, and they work. And that's it, guys. I just finished, and what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just do git add all, git commit message, and I say last touches to my finances dashboards. Okay, and as you can see, here are all the changes that happened. So there's a lot of, so we have some migrations there, and we have charts were deleted because we don't have charts anymore. We have common charts, current period, blah, blah, blah. HTML changed. There's even more. So 17 files changed, so it doesn't show all of them. We can do git status. So nothing to change because we just committed everything. And I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I'm going to push that. So you have it in my repo. So git push. And let me just copy this here, paste it, pushed. And so what happens if I go back to git checkout main? I'm in main. If I click here, it's going to disappear because it's not there anymore. I'm looking here, it's still charts. We're back to the old setup. But I want to get this T54 in my main, and I can do it from here. I could do it from in GitHub and do the PR, but because it's my own project, I can be, I don't have to do PRs because nobody else is looking at it. And I showed you the PR before, pull request means. So I'm going to do this, git merge, and I'm on main. So I want to merge from somewhere to main, okay? And I want to merge T54, and that's what happens. It deleted some files, so you can see all the minus means, okay, this is gone, we don't have finance history anymore, and you can see that stuff happened. Now when I click here again, charts disappears, and we're back to my stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do push, git push, because I'm in main now. I want to push all those changes. Updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you do not have locally. This is usually caused by another repository pushing to the same reference. You may want to first integrate the remote changes. Okay. Git pull colon WQ. Already up to date. Merged by the recursive strategy. I don't know what happened there, but let me just push again. And that worked. So for some reason, it wanted me to pull something. And when I open my, let's say, static, everything is up to date. Let me just refresh my deployment and see if I lost anything, because it says already up to date. So there was no reason for Git to complain. It seems to be working. Okay, I think I was talking for long enough. I hope you're happy with this app. It's doing a pretty cool job. And if you want, you can use it for your own finances for at least for a while, see how your money grows or not for now, because you're still working on your education, and in the future, that's going to be your chart, and that's going to be your chart probably at the beginning, and then you will climb even higher because the money in the industry is pretty cool. Okay, so next video, we start with Django Rest Framework, which is pretty cool. One thing I want to just mention here, we actually started working with REST. We actually started sending some stuff in JSON, and that's pretty much REST. That's that's the beginning of using REST. So you see, if you JSON response something, you kind of you're sending something using REST technology. There's a couple of new concepts that we're gonna talk about and how to use Django Rest Framework. It's obviously useful. It's obviously, if you want to go REST, don't just build it from scratch. Use Django Rest Framework because it helps a lot. But it takes a little bit time to understand, but it's always the trade-off. But once you learn something, that's it. You know it forever, for life. And you get better jobs because companies are looking for people who know new technologies. So anyway, and then Django, I don't see how we spend too much time on Django Rest Framework. I just want to go through some basics. But really what I'm looking forward to is React, because we can take all this and make it React. All this can be in React, which, to be honest, when I'm looking at it, it really doesn't need React. It's very quick, it's very responsive, but it's just for showing you guys that even if you have something in just like pure Django and HTML, you can go from there to React, and it's possible. There are templates for React. You can start from a template, but what I'm saying is you don't need to be constrained to templates in React. You can download an HTML template and make it React. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.